Hi everybody, my name is Sinead and I'm a senior occupational therapist working at Lucina Clinic. I developed this presentation which will hopefully give you some tips and strategies to support optimal well-being for you as teenagers or parents of younger children during this difficult time. It is a little strange talking through this and recording without an audience, so bear with me. Okay, so firstly, take a moment just to check in with how you're feeling. Are any of the feelings or all of the feelings on the slides familiar? It is important to acknowledge that it is okay to feel all the above and to remember that you are not alone in feeling this way and this difficult period of time will pass. This time is full of uncertainties and is forcing us way out of our comfort zones. Throughout the presentation, I will reference the question, what is good enough right now? This is important to think every day if you are finding it difficult to fit all the demands into the day and are feeling any of the feelings referenced here. So today we are going to focus on these 4 areas: structure and routine, realistic goal setting, balance and well-being. It is important to keep things as simple as possible at the moment. It is also important, which we're all guilty of not going down the rabbit hole of looking everything up on Google or at endless COVID articles and information. It's just not good for any of us. Okay, so structure and routine. As humans, we are all creatures of habit, and our daily routine helps keep us focused and stay motivated. Typically, the routine of the day is determined by a number of different factors, including the time to go to work and school, the time we need to get up and to make the bus, the times we need to eat, and many other events. Our day has a predetermined routine, which we habitually follow as it has become our normal. Most Monday to Fridays in our lives has some form of routine. This has now been taken away from us, and we are forced, unfortunately, to develop this for ourselves. This doesn't naturally come to most of us, so we now have to take time and motivation to determine it for ourselves. A lack of structure and routine can result in a lack of motivation, struggles with organisation, decrease in mood, and increase in anxiety levels. It can also make us feel a lack of achievement or completion of anything worthwhile, or that we are wasting time. It can be difficult currently when everything feels out of our control to determine a routine. That's okay. As I've said before, this doesn't come naturally to most of us, never mind when we're feeling stressed and overwhelmed. Okay, so when we're thinking about a routine and structure to the day, it is firstly important to think about realistic goal setting. So you're thinking about what is realistic to achieve within the day, what is important. Is there anything that I'm expecting to achieve or expecting for my child that is just too much right now? What is good enough? And do not compare it to what others are doing. It's important also to celebrate all achievements right now, however small they may appear. So you're thinking about, like, for example, is it realistic that my child completes all the homework given for that day? Is it good enough that only a quarter of it is complete? Is it more important that he spends time outside on the trampoline where he is happier and gets some exercise and burns energy so he is not active and distressed later? You determine what is realistic to achieve each day. Do not compare it to what Mary down the road is doing with her child. Each child and teenager is different with their own strengths and areas of difficulty. So you may still be thinking that this all sounds great, but I still have no idea what to do. So we're just going to talk about it a little bit around where do I start. So you begin by thinking, what do I need to get done today? So what do I need to accomplish? And then making a to-do list. Important again to be realistic about what the list contains and break it down into 3 sections. Do now, do tomorrow, and do sometime. So obviously the do now is the most important for today. So it's important as well to get children involved in creating their own list, and this could be through drawing, through whatever means you think is appropriate for your child. And compromise may be extremely important right now. So sometimes I would advise that maybe when you're making a to-do list, that you might pick a couple of activities and the child also gets a say in picking a couple of activities. So you're getting a bit of buy-in from them and a little bit more motivation. So an example of a to-do list for a teenager might be do schoolwork sent by teacher due tomorrow, clean my bedroom and go for a walk outside. The next area to think of is balance. We want a balance of these three types of activities throughout our day to keep ourselves physically and mentally well. So the three areas are self-care, productivity, and leisure. Again, remember realistic goal setting and what is good enough. We want a balance of these activities so that we are not over focusing on just one area. For example, a teenager who is just focusing on leisure and self-care but not doing anything productive may feel a lack of motivation and a lack of a sense of achievement. On the other hand, if a teenager is not focusing on self-care, for example, getting dressed, getting exercise, eating healthy, this may impact on their mood and motivation, and their productivity and leisure may suffer. So not to worry too much about the graph, but it's just a visual example of the types of activities to include in the day. Okay, so self-care. This involves activities which look after our physical and mental well-being. These are the activities which keep us mentally and physically well. So it's important with self-care to try and stick with what your normal self-care routine pre-COVID was as much as possible. So for example, shower every evening before bed, get dressed every morning after breakfast. So trying to keep the same routine and self-care as much as possible. So trying to avoid getting into poor self-care habits such as staying in pajamas all day, not showering as regularly, not brushing the teeth every day. So trying to not get into those kind of bad habits. And again, thinking about kind of what's good enough right now in relation to self-care. So here's just a few examples of self-care activities. So this is having a set get up and bedtime, getting dressed, having a shower, taking prescribed medication, brushing and flossing your teeth, having a bath, style or dye your hair, or regular relaxation. So whatever the self-care routine was and whatever the self-care activities were before pre-COVID, it's important to keep those up. Okay, so one really important aspect of self-care is exercise. So we all know that exercise is really, really important for our mental well-being, and especially at the moment. So at the moment, some of the regular ways that you exercise might be cancelled. So like football training, getting out, playing in the yard, they're cancelled and can't be done. So it's important to have some exercise every day, but again, being realistic in your expectations for yourself or your child. So getting outside in the fresh air for a leisurely walk might be just what's realistic right now. So here are just a few examples of exercise activities to do at the moment. So things like going for a walk or run, doing yoga, going for a cycle, the skipping rope. Some kids I'm working with at the moment are doing Joe Wicks's 9 a.m. Workout every morning on YouTube, and they're really enjoying it. So that's kind of a great way for kids to have a fun time while exercising. Stress and lack of routine can really affect how hungry we are and what we choose to eat. Our body thinks we are preparing to run away or that we are facing a famine. How we eat can also affect how we sleep. When we don't eat regularly, our energy levels can spike and then crash and leave us feeling tired and unwell. Then we crave lots of sugar and fatty foods. It is important to try to stick to irregular meal times or eat smaller snacks even if you are not very hungry. If you are feeling hungry all the time, try to make healthier choices. Our bodies burn through vitamins really quickly when we're stressed. We need to eat lots of fruit and vegetables to help. A little bit of what you like is okay though. Okay, I hope everybody's still with me. If you need to take a break at any stage, you can always pause and come back to it at some stage. There's no pressure at all. I know it's kind of a lot of information. So in relation to productivity, productivity activities are activities in which we achieve or accomplish something. This gives us a sense of purpose and allows us to enjoy our leisure time even more. Being productive does not have to just include schoolwork and normal work. It can be getting something done during the day which you enjoy and are motivated towards. Currently, with teachers sending through lots of schoolwork, this may be your focus at the moment, and it may have become very overwhelming and stressful. If this is the case, it is important to think of maybe a balance between school and other productive activities for you or your child. Okay, so here are some examples of productivity activities. So obviously doing schoolwork, but like learning something new, cleaning and tidying your room, helping out with kind of spring cleaning the house, taking care of a pet, bringing dishes to the sink. Some other ones for kind of smaller kids, maybe if schoolwork is getting too much, things like going out to the garden and picking leaves in the garden, showing them to a parent, researching the trees they came from. So that's kind of even a learning activity, but also productive. Things like making a scrapbook and telling a parent a story developed from the scrapbook. For maybe teenagers, like maybe if they're trying to learn how to drive, practicing the theory test questions on the computer CD or app. So you can kind of see that there's loads of productive things to do during the day, and it's important to think of what you or your child is motivated towards. As you can see, the activities above are not just focused on academics or schoolwork. So the third area is leisure. So leisure activities are all the activities which we enjoy and make us feel good. Now that we have to self-isolate and social distance, our range of leisure activities has reduced significantly. You may have been used to going out with your friends every evening or playing sports. It is now important to think of alternative activities which will continue to bring enjoyment. It may be going back to a leisure activity which you previously enjoyed, such as art. It is important now that we have leisure activities on a daily basis to keep ourselves feeling good. If you or your child are quite social normally, it is important to keep this aspect of leisure going. Teenagers may use FaceTime, WhatsApp, Zoom calls more frequently to keep in touch with friends. For younger children, it may be possible to set up a FaceTime call for your child with the parent of their best friend so they can keep in touch every couple of days or what is appropriate. Lots of us are social beings by nature, and it is important to continue to facilitate this. Okay, so after all that information, your head may feel a little full. So now let's move on to practically trying to come up with a routine and structure to your day. So number one, the first thing you do is have your to-do list in front of you. Number two is keeping in mind to be realistic. Think about what is going to work best. Number three, decide where you're going to display the routine. So some people put it up on a whiteboard for the family, on the fridge. It may be beside the child's bed, wherever you think is appropriate. And make it as visual as possible, an easy read for younger children especially. So it may involve pictures only for these kids. It might work a little bit better that way. Number five, decide on who the routine is for. So some families will come up for a routine with the whole family that will work, or it might just be for that child or that teenager. So start with a rough draft of the day, so kind of scribble it out. Other kids and other parents can be involved in this and draft it out. Then check, kind of have I covered self-care, productivity and leisure, and you can change it up if not. So you should kind of have a rough draft after following those steps. So here's an example of a routine, probably for a younger child or a teen who learns best visually. You can see it is very easy to read and follow, and the child takes off each part when they are done, so they know what comes next. This may be drawn with parents on a sheet of paper at the beginning of each day, and the activities are ticked off. Whatever works best for you. Again, keeping it as visual as possible if your child is a visual learner. Again, get the child involved in setting the routine and picking some activities which will increase their motivation. So here's an example of a routine which may have been drawn up for a motivated teenager who can develop a routine for themselves. So you can kind of see from this routine that they've kind of set the times, they've broken down the activities into the three areas, and it's very, very structured. So you can kind of see how visually for a teenager this would be quite good, and it covers kind of all the areas, and a teenager might develop this with their parent. Here's an example of a family routine. You can see they've broken down the day into the different types of activities. Playtime and learning time doesn't have to be specific, but it's part of a routine, and the activity can be chosen on the day. So you can kind of see there that they said like outside play, lunchtime, learning. So it's not specific, but it's kind of the general learning area, which sometimes can work quite well because it's hard to predict exactly what's going to happen at that time. You may also use timers and movement breaks to help keep focus during the day, and these can be put into the routine also. As parents, it is important for you to think of the times when you may fit your own work into the day, maybe at the children's play and leisure times, and again remembering what is good enough for the children right now to ensure that you as a parent can get what you need done for the day. Okay, so I've covered some of these tips already, but I'll go through them again. So finding the time to set up a routine can be really difficult, but can be extremely beneficial in the long run, so it's worth putting the time in. If it is a family routine, decide on a time at the weekend and get the children involved. So the people we can see at the moment are only our families really, so involve families in parts of the routines. For example, exercise could be a walk with parents. Ensure there's a specific start and finish time to stick to when it comes to activities that there is lower motivation for, so the child knows when it's going to end, and maybe put something nice after that activity. So use timers, as I said, if needed for the whole family, and if doing schoolwork, try and take regular movement breaks to help with concentration and attention. So for example, something like running up and down the stairs in between doing work. Okay, we're nearly there. So the last aspect is general well-being, which is vitally important right now. So just kind of small general tips for well-being. So just trying to keep everything simple at the moment. Don't overcomplicate anything. Eat as healthy as possible. Drink enough water. Do at least one thing a day which makes you feel productive. Get out for one walk a day. Get enough sleep. And be realistic in what you and your family can achieve. So if you manage to cover all of these things in the day, you're doing really, really well and need to give yourself a pat on the back. We can only achieve what is possible to achieve right now, and always remember to think what is good enough. So really keeping it simple, we can only achieve what we can achieve right now. Okay. So I'm going to end with this quote from Marion Keyes, which she wrote on her Instagram page during COVID. So she wrote, "Look it, we don't have to use this strange hiccup in time to become fluent in conversational Mandarin or learn to play the clarinet. Feed yourself, wash yourself, do the small necessary stuff. That's all you need to do." So these words really sum up exactly what I'm recommending right now. We can't all be superheroes. So just the last thing, so on the Leaching Clinic website, under the COVID section, there are really useful resources, which after doing this presentation, you will find really helpful. So there's one called an OT Guide to Quarantine, which is really helpful. And another called OT Advice about structuring your day during isolation, including an activity jar, which could be really helpful. And there's also a weekly planner there, and there's loads of other resources, and definitely have a look through them. And then, so if you have any questions or you feel like you need any further support at this time, please contact the OT department of the clinic you or your child attends. So you can do this by making contact with any clinician on the team you are involved with currently, and they can link you in with occupational therapy. So I thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with this at home, and I hope everybody is keeping safe and well. Thanks very much. Bye.